The call from Dan caught me off guard. I was in the middle of a lively party with friends when my phone buzzed. Seeing my wife's colleague's name on the screen, I excused myself and stepped into the hallway to answer. "Hey, Josh!" Dan's voice was cheerful. "How did Christina manage to get that business trip with Michael? That's quite a big break for her." My heart skipped a beat. Christina had never mentioned that her boss was going with her. Something felt off, and I knew I needed to find out more. "Yeah, it's great for her," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Did she say when they'd be back?" "Not really. Just thought it was cool they got the opportunity together. Anyway, catch you later, man." As I hung up, a wave of unease washed over me. Christina and I had always been open with each other about our work, and her omission of such a significant detail was troubling. I decided to check her work documents for more information. Back at home, I sifted through her papers and emails, noticing discrepancies in the dates and locations of her supposed meetings. My suspicion grew, and I knew I needed more than just paperwork. I installed a tracking app on her phone, giving me access to her calls and messages. Later that night, I overheard a conversation between Christina and someone else. She was arranging to meet someone at a hotel. My heart pounded as I realized it was Michael, her boss. I couldn't let this go uninvestigated. The next morning, I packed a bag and drove to the city where she was supposed to be on her business trip. I checked into a hotel nearby and began my surveillance. From a distance, I watched Christina and Michael exit their hotel and head to a restaurant. My stomach churned as I snapped photos of them together, their body language betraying an intimacy far beyond professional boundaries. After their dinner, I confronted them in the hotel lobby. Christina's eyes widened in shock as I approached, my anger barely contained. "Josh, what are you doing here?" she stammered. "Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing," I replied coldly. "Care to explain what's going on?" She glanced at Michael, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. "It's not what it looks like," she began, but I cut her off. "I have photos, Christina. I've been watching you." Her facade crumbled, and she admitted to the affair, revealing that it had been going on for months. Hurt and betrayal surged through me as I turned on my heel and left, knowing our marriage was over. The next few days were a blur. I met with a lawyer to discuss the divorce and reached out to friends and family for support. Their encouragement helped me begin the painful process of moving on. I decided to start fresh, relocating to a new city where I could rebuild my life away from the memories of betrayal. As I settled into my new surroundings, I focused on my career and personal growth, determined to leave the past behind and find a new purpose. That call from Dan had shattered my world, but it also opened the door to a new beginning. The days following my confrontation with Christina were a whirlwind of confusion and heartache. I couldn't shake the image of her with Michael. The trust we had built over the years shattered in an instant. Despite the pain, I knew I needed to understand how deep her betrayal ran. I started by diving into her work documents. Late at night, I pored over her emails and schedules, searching for any inconsistencies that might shed light on her affair. It wasn't long before I noticed discrepancies in the dates and locations of her supposed business meetings that didn't align with her stories. The more I uncovered, the more my suspicions grew. Feeling a need for more concrete evidence, I decided to take a more drastic step. I installed a tracking app on her phone, one that would give me access to her calls and messages. It felt invasive, but I justified it as a necessary measure to uncover the truth. I was desperate to know just how long she had been deceiving me. One night, as I was sitting in our living room, the app alerted me to an incoming call on Christina's phone. I listened in, my heart pounding as I heard her making plans to meet someone at a hotel. The realization that it was Michael, her boss, made my blood run cold. The confirmation of my worst fears left me feeling both vindicated and devastated. I knew I couldn't confront her without irrefutable evidence. The next morning, I took a day off work, packed a bag, and drove to the city where Christina was supposedly on her business trip. I checked into a hotel nearby and began my surveillance, feeling like a character in a detective novel. From a distance, I watched Christina and Michael exit their hotel and head to a restaurant. The way they interacted, their body language, the stolen glances, it all confirmed what I had feared. I snapped photos of them together, my heart aching with every click of the camera. This was the proof I needed, but it also deepened my pain. After their dinner, I confronted them in the hotel lobby. Christina's eyes widened in shock as I approached, my anger barely contained. "Josh, what are you doing here?" she stammered. "Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing," I replied coldly. "Care to explain what's going on?" She glanced at Michael, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. "It's not what it looks like," she began, but I cut her off. "I have photos, Christina. I've been watching you." Her facade crumbled, and she admitted to the affair, revealing that it had been going on for months. The betrayal cut deep, but it also brought a strange sense of closure. At least now I knew the truth. Leaving the hotel, I felt a mixture of anger and relief. The next few days were a blur as I began the painful process of untangling our lives. I met with a lawyer to discuss the divorce, the legalities feeling cold and clinical compared to the raw emotion I was experiencing. Throughout this time, I leaned heavily on my friends and family. Their support was a lifeline, helping me navigate the turmoil of my emotions. I took solace in their encouragement, finding strength in their words and actions. They reminded me that I wasn't alone, even as I faced one of the darkest periods of my life. Determined to move forward, I decided to relocate. A new city offered a fresh start, a chance to rebuild my life away from the painful memories of betrayal. It wasn't easy, but each day brought a small measure of healing. Settling into my new surroundings, I focused on my career and personal growth. I immersed myself in work, finding comfort in the routine and the sense of accomplishment it brought. I started attending a gym, pushing my physical limits as a way to cope with the emotional strain. Slowly but surely, I began to piece together a new sense of self, one that wasn't defined by my past but by the promise of the future. Christina's betrayal had shattered my world, but it also opened the door to a new beginning. I was determined to walk through it, leaving the pain behind and embracing the possibilities that lay ahead. The drive back home from the city where I confronted Christina and Michael felt like a dream. My mind was a tumultuous sea of emotions: anger, sadness, betrayal. I knew I had to keep moving forward, but the weight of the situation was almost too much to bear. My priority was to meet with a lawyer and start the process of ending our marriage. Sitting across from my lawyer, Rebecca Hayes, I laid out the details of what had happened. She listened intently, her expression a mix of professionalism and sympathy. "I understand this is a difficult time for you, Josh," she said. "We'll start with the paperwork for the divorce and address the division of assets. Given the evidence you have, this should be a relatively straightforward case." Her words provided a semblance of comfort. Knowing that the legal side of things was being taken care of allowed me to focus on my emotional recovery. I couldn't let Christina's betrayal define me. I had to rebuild my life from the ground up. The days blurred together as I sorted through our shared possessions, packing up my things and preparing to leave the house we had made our home. Each item I touched seemed to carry a memory, a reminder of what once was and what had been lost. It was a painful process, but also a cathartic one. Each box sealed was a step closer to my new beginning. One evening, as I was packing up the last of my belongings, Christina came home. The air between us was thick with tension, the silence deafening. She looked at me with a mixture of guilt and sadness, her eyes pleading for understanding or forgiveness. I couldn't tell which. "Josh," she started, her voice trembling. "I know I don't have the right to ask, but can we talk?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Fine, talk." She sat down on the edge of the couch, wringing her hands. "I never wanted to hurt you. I got caught up in something I couldn't control. Michael made me feel important and valued, but it was a mistake, a terrible mistake." "Months of lying and deceit," I replied, my voice colder than I intended. "That's more than just a mistake, Christina. You destroyed our marriage." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I know, and I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know that I'm truly sorry." Her apology hung in the air, but it did little to mend the broken pieces of our relationship. I nodded, not trusting myself to say more. Words felt inadequate to express the depth of my pain and disappointment. The next day, I met with Rebecca again to finalize the divorce proceedings. The legal formalities felt like a necessary evil, a process that had to be endured to move on. Rebecca assured me that everything was proceeding smoothly, and soon I would be free from the legal binds of my marriage. Friends and family continued to be my rock. Their support was unwavering, helping me navigate the stormy seas of my emotions. I spent more time with them, finding solace in their presence. My best friend Mark took me out for drinks, reminding me of the good times and encouraging me to look forward. "You'll get through this, Josh," he said, clinking his glass against mine, one day at a time. I took his words to heart. It wasn't easy, but each day brought a small measure of healing. I threw myself into work, finding distraction and purpose in my job. My colleagues were understanding, offering their support without prying into the details of my personal life. I also started going to the gym regularly, finding a physical outlet for my emotional turmoil. The exertion felt good, a tangible way to work through my frustrations and anger. I pushed myself harder each day, setting new goals and milestones. The progress I made in the gym mirrored the progress I was making in my life, slow but steady. As the weeks passed, the pain began to dull. It didn't disappear entirely, but it became more manageable. I started to see glimpses of a future that wasn't defined by my past, but by my own choices and actions. Christina's betrayal had broken me, but it had also forced me to rebuild. And in that rebuilding, I was discovering a strength I didn't know I had. The journey was far from over, but I was determined to walk it, one step at a time, towards a new and brighter future. Moving to a new city was both exhilarating and terrifying. The moment I stepped out of my car and into my new apartment, I felt a wave of liberation. The place was small but cozy, a blank canvas on which I could paint a new life. It was a fresh start, a chance to redefine who I was away from the memories of betrayal. Unpacking my belongings was a cathartic process. With each box, I carefully selected what to keep and what to discard, symbolically shedding the remnants of my past. I arranged my new home with intention, creating a space that reflected my aspirations rather than my history. One of the first things I did was find a local gym. Physical fitness had become my sanctuary, a place where I could channel my emotions into something productive. The gym was bustling with activity, and it didn't take long to fall into a routine. Each workout was a step toward reclaiming my sense of self, and the physical progress I made mirrored the emotional healing happening within me. Work also provided a sense of stability. My new job offered challenges that kept me engaged and focused. I threw myself into projects, eager to prove my worth and distract myself from lingering pain. My colleagues were welcoming, and I slowly began to form new professional relationships that added to my growing support network. Despite the positive strides, there were still moments of darkness. Nights were the hardest, when the silence was loudest, and the memories of Christina's betrayal crept in. I combated the loneliness by reaching out to old friends and making an effort to build new connections. Social gatherings, though sometimes daunting, became opportunities to forge bonds and reclaim my sense of community. One evening, after a particularly intense workout session, I found myself sitting at a bar, nursing a drink. The bartender, a friendly guy named Sam, struck up a conversation. He had an easygoing manner that made me feel comfortable opening up. "So, what brings you to our city?" Sam asked, wiping down the counter. "Needed a fresh start," I replied, taking a sip of my drink. "Things got complicated back home." He nodded knowingly. "Happens to the best of us. Sometimes a change of scenery is all you need to find your footing again." His words resonated with me. Over time, I found myself returning to that bar, not for the drinks, but for the conversation. It became a place where I could unwind and reflect, a small but significant part of my new routine. As the weeks turned into months, I noticed a change in myself. The raw pain of betrayal began to fade, replaced by a sense of resilience and determination. I was no longer defined by what had happened to me, but by how I chose to move forward. I started setting personal goals, both big and small, that helped me stay focused on the future. One of those goals was to explore the city. On weekends, I would wander through neighborhoods, discovering parks, cafes, and local shops. Each discovery was a reminder that life held endless possibilities, and I was only just beginning to tap into them. In one of those explorations, I stumbled upon a community center that offered various classes and activities. Intrigued, I signed up for a cooking class. It was something I had always been interested in but never pursued. The class was filled with people from all walks of life, and it wasn't long before I found myself enjoying the camaraderie and learning new skills. Through these experiences, I began to see that the future was not something to be feared, but embraced. Christina's betrayal had left a scar, but it also ignited a fire within me, a determination to rebuild and thrive. My new life was far from perfect, but it was mine. Every decision, every step forward was a testament to my resilience. I had been broken, but I was slowly piecing myself back together, stronger and wiser than before. With each passing day, I grew more confident in my ability to forge a new path. The journey was ongoing, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. I was not defined by my past, but by the choices I made in the present. And those choices were leading me toward a future filled with promise and potential. Life in the new city continued to take shape in unexpected ways. With my routine firmly established and a growing sense of belonging, I found myself increasingly open to new experiences and connections. The wounds from Christina's betrayal had begun to heal, and in their place, a sense of optimism and possibility emerged. One Saturday morning, I decided to visit a local farmer's market. The vibrant stalls filled with fresh produce and handmade goods created an atmosphere of community and warmth. As I wandered through the aisles, appreciating the array of colors and scents, I felt a sense of peace. While examining some ripe tomatoes, I struck up a conversation with the vendor, a middle-aged woman named Marla. She had a friendly demeanor and a passion for organic farming that was contagious. "You seem new around here," Marla remarked, handing me a sample of her homemade salsa. "I am," I admitted, savoring the fresh taste. "Moved here a few months ago, still getting to know the place." "Well, you've come to the right spot. The market's a great way to meet people and get a feel for the community," she said with a warm smile. I spent the rest of the morning exploring the market, chatting with vendors, and sampling various delicacies. It was a simple pleasure, but it made me feel more connected to my new home. The following week, I received an email from the community center about a charity event they were hosting. They were looking for volunteers, and without hesitation, I signed up. I had always found fulfillment in helping others, and this seemed like a perfect opportunity to give back while meeting new people. On the day of the event, I arrived early to help with setup. The atmosphere was lively, with volunteers bustling about and organizing tables and decorations. I was assigned to work with a group preparing food for the attendees. As I was chopping vegetables, a woman around my age introduced herself. Her name was Jessica, and she had an easygoing, friendly demeanor. We quickly fell into conversation, sharing stories about our lives and what had brought us to the city. "I moved here for a fresh start," I explained, carefully slicing a carrot. "Needed a change after some personal stuff back home." Jessica nodded, her expression understanding. "I get that. I moved here after a tough breakup. Sometimes a new place is the best way to heal and grow." We worked together for the rest of the day, and our conversation flowed naturally. By the end of the event, I felt like I had made a genuine connection. Jessica suggested grabbing coffee sometime, and I readily agreed. Our coffee meetup turned into a series of regular hangouts. Jessica and I discovered we had a lot in common, from our love of outdoor activities to our passion for cooking. She introduced me to her circle of friends, and soon I found myself with a new social network that felt supportive and welcoming. Through these new friendships, I started to see my past in a different light. Christina's betrayal had been a painful chapter, but it had also led me to this point, a place where I was surrounded by genuine people who valued and supported me. One evening, as I was reflecting on these changes, I received a call from Mark, my best friend from back home. We had stayed in touch regularly, and he had been a pillar of support throughout my journey. "Hey man, how's the new life treating you?" Mark's voice was filled with curiosity and encouragement. "Honestly, it's going better than I expected," I replied, smiling. "I've made some good friends and finally feel like I'm moving forward." "That's awesome to hear. We miss you back here, but I'm glad you're finding your footing." Talking to Mark reminded me of how far I had come. The pain of the past was still there, but it no longer defined me. Instead, it had become a part of my story, a story of resilience, growth, and new beginnings. As summer turned to fall, the city took on a new beauty. The crisp air and changing leaves brought a sense of renewal. Jessica and I continued to explore the city together, from hiking trails to art galleries. Our friendship deepened, and I found myself looking forward to our time together. One afternoon, as we sat in a quaint cafe discussing our latest culinary experiments, Jessica looked at me thoughtfully. "Josh, have you ever thought about taking a cooking class together? There's this advanced course at the community center that I think you'd love. The idea excited me. Cooking had become a passion, and sharing it with a friend sounded perfect. I'd love that. Let's sign up. The cooking class became a weekly highlight. Not only did it improve my skills, but it also strengthened my bond with Jessica. We laughed, experimented with recipes, and enjoyed the fruits of our labor. It was another step in my journey of healing and growth. Through these experiences, I realized that life's unexpected turns could lead to beautiful destinations. I had been broken, but in the process of rebuilding, I had discovered new passions, forged meaningful connections, and found a sense of peace and purpose. My story was far from over, but I was no longer afraid of what the future held. I was ready to embrace it, one step at a time, with hope and determination guiding me forward. As the weeks turned into months, I settled into a comfortable rhythm in my new city. The scars from my past were still there, but they had begun to fade, replaced by the vibrancy of my new life. My friendship with Jessica continued to deepen, and the cooking class became a cherished part of our routine. One evening, after a particularly successful culinary experiment, Jessica and I sat in her cozy apartment, savoring our creation. The atmosphere was warm and relaxed, the air filled with the comforting scent of freshly baked bread. "Josh, have you ever thought about what's next for you?" Jessica asked, breaking the comfortable silence. I looked at her, surprised by the question. "What do you mean?" "Well, you've made a fresh start here. Do you have any new goals or dreams you're working towards?" Her question made me pause. For so long, my focus had been on healing and rebuilding. Now that I had found stability, it was time to think about the future. "I've been considering going back to school," I admitted. "I've always wanted to get my MBA, and now seems like the right time to pursue it." Jessica's face lit up. "That's a great idea. You'd be amazing. Have you looked into any programs?" "I've done some research, but I haven't applied anywhere yet. I guess I've been a bit hesitant to take the plunge." "You should go for it," she encouraged. "You've already proven you can handle big changes. This is just another step forward." Her support was heartening. Over the next few weeks, I gathered information on various MBA programs, focusing on those that would allow me to continue working while studying. With Jessica's help and encouragement, I completed my applications and submitted them, feeling a mixture of excitement and anxiety. In the meantime, my job continued to be a source of fulfillment. I was taking on more responsibilities and gaining recognition for my hard work. My colleagues had become like a second family, and their support was invaluable. One Friday evening, after a long week at work, I received an email notification. It was from one of the MBA programs I had applied to. My heart raced as I opened it, my eyes scanning the text. "Congratulations, Josh. We are pleased to offer you admission to our MBA program." I let out a shout of joy, unable to contain my excitement. I immediately called Jessica to share the news. "I got it," I exclaimed. "I'm going to start my MBA." "That's amazing, Josh," she replied, her voice filled with genuine happiness. "I knew you could do it. We have to celebrate." On that evening, we went out to one of our favorite restaurants, toasting my acceptance and the journey ahead. It felt like a turning point, a confirmation that I was on the right path. As I prepared to start my MBA, I continued to immerse myself in the life I had built. I explored new hobbies, from joining a local book club to taking up photography. Each new activity brought a sense of discovery and joy, adding layers to my growing sense of self. Jessica remained a constant presence in my life. Our friendship had blossomed into something deeper, though neither of us had spoken openly about it. There was a quiet understanding between us, a mutual respect and affection that didn't need to be rushed or labeled. One crisp autumn afternoon, we decided to go for a hike in the nearby mountains. The trail was challenging but rewarding, offering stunning views of the changing foliage. As we reached the summit, we stood together, taking in the breathtaking panorama. "This place is incredible," Jessica said, her voice filled with awe. "I'm so glad we did this." "Me too," I agreed, feeling a profound sense of contentment. "Thanks for being a part of this journey with me, Jessica. I don't know how I would have gotten through all of this without you." She smiled, her eyes meeting mine. "You've come a long way, Josh, and I'm proud of you. I'm glad to be here too." At that moment, something shifted. The bond we had nurtured was undeniable, and I knew it was time to acknowledge it. "Jessica, I've been thinking. I care about you. More than just a friend. I don't want to rush things, but I feel like we have something special. Her eyes softened and she took my hand. I feel the same way, Josh. Let's take it one step at a time and see where this goes. The hike back down the mountain felt different, lighter. We had taken a step forward in our relationship, and it felt right. As the days passed, my life continued to evolve. I started my MBA program, balancing work, school, and my personal life with a newfound sense of purpose. Each day brought new challenges and opportunities, and I embraced them with open arms. My relationship with Jessica grew stronger, built on a foundation of trust and shared experiences. We supported each other's goals and dreams, finding joy in the journey we were on together. The city that had once been a place of refuge had become my home. I had built a life filled with love, ambition, and endless possibilities. The pain of the past had transformed into strength, guiding me toward a future I could have never imagined. In embracing the new, I had found myself again. And for the first time in a long time, I was truly happy. As winter approached, the city was transformed into a wonderland of twinkling lights and festive decorations. The holiday season brought a sense of warmth and reflection, a time to appreciate how far I had come and the new life I had built. My MBA program was in full swing, and while the workload was intense, I thrived on the challenge. One evening, as I was wrapping up a particularly demanding study session, I received an unexpected phone call. The name on the screen made my heart skip a beat. Christina. I hesitated before answering, a rush of conflicting emotions flooding over me. Taking a deep breath, I finally picked up. Hello? Hi, Josh. It's Christina, she said softly, her voice a mix of uncertainty and sadness. I hope it's okay that I called. It's fine, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. What's going on? I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened, she began. I know I hurt you deeply, and I wanted to reach out and apologize again. I've started seeing a therapist, and part of my healing process is making amends where I can. Her words took me by surprise. While the pain of her betrayal had diminished over time, the memory still lingered. Hearing her acknowledge her mistakes and seek forgiveness stirred something within me. I appreciate that, Christina, I said after a pause. It took a long time to move on, but I've built a new life here. I'm in a much better place now. I'm glad to hear that, she replied, relief evident in her voice. I've been working on myself, too. I'm not asking for anything, just a chance to apologize properly and find closure for both of us. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop the following weekend. As the day approached, I felt a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. I wondered what this encounter would bring and whether it would help put the past to rest. On the day of our meeting, I arrived early, choosing a quiet corner table. When Christina walked in, I was struck by how different she looked, more subdued, yet also more at peace. Hi, Josh, she greeted me, a tentative smile on her face as she sat down. Hi, Christina, I responded, trying to keep my tone neutral. For a few moments, we sat in silence, each of us gathering our thoughts. Finally, Christina spoke. I want to start by saying how truly sorry I am for everything. I know my actions were inexcusable, and I hurt you in ways I can't fully understand. Therapy has helped me realize the depth of my mistakes and the impact they had on me. Listening to her, I felt a sense of validation. Her acknowledgement of the pain she caused was something I had needed to hear, even if it came much later than I had hoped. Thank you for saying that, I replied. It means a lot to hear you take responsibility. It's been a long journey, but I've found a way to move forward. We talked for a while longer, reflecting on our past and the changes we had undergone. It was a difficult conversation, but it also brought a sense of closure. By the end, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, a final release of the lingering resentment and hurt. As we said our goodbyes, I realized that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant acknowledging the pain, learning from it, and choosing to let go. Christina's apology was a necessary step in my healing process, allowing me to fully embrace the life I had rebuilt. Leaving the coffee shop, I felt a sense of peace and clarity. I had confronted my past and emerged stronger. The experience underscored the importance of forgiveness, not just for others, but for myself. Returning home, I shared the encounter with Jessica. She listened intently, her support unwavering. I'm proud of you, Josh, she said, squeezing my hand. Facing your past like that takes a lot of courage. I couldn't have done it without you, I admitted, feeling a surge of gratitude for her presence in my life. As winter turned to spring, my life continued to flourish. My MBA program was challenging but rewarding, and my relationship with Jessica grew deeper and more meaningful. We supported each other's dreams and faced challenges together, building a foundation of trust and love. One weekend, we decided to take a trip to the coast, a chance to unwind and enjoy each other's company, away from the hustle and bustle of daily life. The beach was serene, the sound of the waves providing a soothing backdrop to our conversations. Sitting on the sand, watching the sunset, Jessica turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Josh, I've been thinking about the future. About us," she said softly. I looked at her, my heart swelling with affection. "I have to. I can't imagine my life without you, Jessica. You've become such an important part of my journey." She smiled, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "I feel the same way. I know we've both been through a lot, but I believe we're stronger because of it. I want us to keep building this life together." At that moment, under the golden light of the setting sun, I realized just how far I had come. From the depths of betrayal and heartache, I had found a new path filled with hope and love. Jessica and I had faced our challenges, but together, we had created something beautiful. As we embraced, the future felt brighter than ever. The journey was far from over, but I was ready to face it with Jessica by my side. Our story was one of resilience, growth, and the enduring power of love. And I knew that whatever lay ahead, we would face it together, stronger than ever. The vibrant colors of spring had given way to the warm, lazy days of summer. Life in the new city continued to be a rewarding mix of work, study, and personal growth. My relationship with Jessica flourished, and our bond grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, after a particularly grueling study session, Jessica and I decided to take a walk through a nearby park. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the landscape. We strolled hand in hand, enjoying the tranquility and each other's company. "Josh, there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about," Jessica said, her tone serious yet gentle. I looked at her, sensing the weight of her words. "What is it?" "It's about Christina," she began. "I know you found closure, but I've been doing some thinking. There's something you should know, and I've hesitated to bring it up because I didn't want to reopen old wounds." Her words sent a chill down my spine. "What do you mean?" Jessica took a deep breath before continuing. "Remember that charity event we volunteered for a while back? Well, one of the volunteers, Amy, is an old friend of mine from college. We've stayed in touch, and she recently mentioned something that made me think. She said she saw Christina at a local bar a few times, talking to a man named Richard. Richard is known for his less than honorable business practices." My heart pounded in my chest. "Why didn't you tell me this sooner?" "I didn't want to worry you or drag you back into the past," Jessica explained. "But after thinking about it, I realized you deserve to know. I'm not sure what Christina's involvement with him is, but I thought you might want to look into it." The revelation left me feeling uneasy. I had moved on from Christina's betrayal, but the idea that she might still be involved in something shady stirred a sense of concern and curiosity. "Thanks for telling me, Jessica," I said, squeezing her hand. "I'll look into it. I just hope it's nothing serious." That night, as I lay in bed, my mind raced with possibilities. What was Christina up to? And why was she associating with someone like Richard? I knew I needed to find out, not just for my peace of mind, but to ensure that any loose ends from my past were properly addressed. Over the next few days, I did some discreet digging. I reached out to a few contacts and gathered information on Richard. It didn't take long to confirm Jessica's suspicions. Richard was indeed involved in questionable activities, ranging from shady business deals to rumors of blackmail and manipulation. I felt a growing sense of unease. Christina had made mistakes, but this seemed like a deeper, more troubling involvement. Determined to get to the bottom of it, I decided to confront Christina directly. I called her and suggested meeting at a neutral location. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe, the same place where we had found some semblance of closure months ago. When I arrived, Christina was already there, looking a bit more composed than the last time we had met. I took a seat across from her, my expression serious. "Christina, I need to ask you something," I began, getting straight to the point. "What's your involvement with Richard?" Her eyes widened, a flicker of fear crossing her face. Richard? What do you mean? I've heard you've been seen with him, I said, keeping my voice steady. And from what I've learned, he's not someone you want to be associated with. Christina sighed, looking down at her hands. It's complicated, Josh. Richard and we go way back. He helped me out during a difficult time, and I owe him. What kind of help? I pressed. She hesitated before answering. After everything fell apart between us, I was in a bad place. Richard offered me a job, a way to get back on my feet. At first it seemed legitimate, but over time, I realized he was using me for his gain. I've been trying to distance myself from him, but it's not easy. Her confession stirred a mix of emotions within me. Part of me wanted to help her, while another part of me was wary of getting drawn back into the chaos of her life. Christina, you need to get out of this, I said firmly. Richard is bad news, and staying involved with him will only lead to more trouble. I know, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. But I'm scared, Josh. He has leverage over me, and I don't know how to break free. Seeing her vulnerability, I felt a surge of compassion. Despite everything that had happened, I didn't want to see her suffer. Maybe I can help, I offered, surprising even myself with the words. I know some people who might be able to intervene, to get Richard off your back. She looked at me with a mixture of hope and disbelief. You'd do that for me? After everything? I'm not doing it for you, I clarified. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, and because I believe everyone deserves a chance to make things right. Over the next few weeks, I used my contacts to gather more information on Richard and devise a plan to help Christina extricate herself from his grip. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when I questioned my decision, but in the end, I knew it was necessary to fully close the chapter of my past. Through a series of carefully planned moves, we managed to gather enough evidence to expose Richard's illegal activities. With the help of law enforcement and some well-placed allies, we were able to neutralize his threat and provide Christina with the support she needed to start anew. It was a tense and challenging process, but in the end, it brought a sense of closure and justice. Christina was grateful, and while we didn't rekindle our relationship, there was mutual respect and understanding between us. As I walked away from that final meeting, I felt a profound sense of relief. I had faced my past head-on, helped someone in need, and emerged stronger for it. The experience reaffirmed my belief in doing what's right, no matter how difficult. Returning home, I shared the outcome with Jessica. She listened intently, her eyes filled with admiration and pride. You're an incredible person, Josh, she said, hugging me tightly. You've come so far, and you've shown such strength and compassion. I'm so proud of you. Her words meant everything to me. I had navigated the complexities of my past and emerged with a clear sense of who I was and what I stood for. As summer continued, I focused on my MBA, my work, and my relationship with Jessica. We continued to build our future together, embracing each challenge and opportunity with open hearts. The unexpected revelation about Christina and the subsequent journey to help her had been a test of my resolve and character. Through it all, I discovered that true strength lay in facing the past, making amends, and moving forward with integrity and hope. The future was bright, and I was ready to embrace it fully, knowing that I had the love and support of Jessica by my side. Together, we were unstoppable, and the journey ahead was filled with endless possibilities. The events with Christina and Richard had brought a sense of finality and closure to a tumultuous chapter of my life. With that behind me, I focused entirely on the future, particularly my MBA studies, my work, and my relationship with Jessica. The days flowed seamlessly, filled with purpose and contentment. One evening, after a long day of classes and meetings, Jessica suggested we have a quiet dinner at home. We decided to try a new recipe we had learned in our cooking class, an elaborate seafood paella that required both of us to collaborate closely. The process was enjoyable, filled with laughter and the comforting sounds of sizzling ingredients. As we sat down to eat, the aroma of the paella filling the room, Jessica looked at me with a thoughtful expression. Josh, I've been thinking a lot about our future, she began, her voice gentle yet serious. I put down my fork and met her gaze, my heart skipping a beat. What about our future? I know we've talked about our goals and dreams, she continued, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. Where do you see us in the next few years? Her question caught me off guard, but it was a conversation we needed to have. I took a moment to gather my thoughts before answering. Honestly, Jessica, I see us continuing to grow together. I want to finish my MBA, advance in my career, and eventually start a family with you. You've become such an integral part of my life, and I can't imagine my future without you. A warm smile spread across her face. That's exactly how I feel, Josh. I've been thinking about taking the next step in our relationship, and I want us to be on the same journey together. Her words filled me with a sense of joy and anticipation. We spent the rest of the evening discussing our dreams and plans, solidifying our commitment to each other. It felt like a turning point, a confirmation that we were ready to take on the future as a united front. The next few months flew by in a blur of activity. My MBA program was demanding, but I thrived on the challenge, and Jessica continued to excel in her career. We supported each other through the ups and downs, finding strength and comfort in our partnership. One sunny Saturday, we decided to take a trip to the countryside for a much-needed break. We rented a cozy cabin by a lake, surrounded by lush greenery and the serene sounds of nature. It was the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of city life. On the second day of our trip, we decided to go for a hike. The trail was beautiful, winding through dense forests and opening up to breathtaking views of the lake. As we reached a scenic overlook, Jessica turned to me, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Josh, there's something I've been wanting to do," she said, reaching into her backpack. My curiosity piqued, and I watched as she pulled out a small, intricately wrapped box. She handed it to me with a nervous smile. "Open it," she urged. I carefully unwrapped the box, revealing a stunning watch with an engraved message on the back. "For our past, present, and future. Together always." I looked at Jessica, my heart swelling with emotion. "It's beautiful, Jessica. Thank you." "There's more," she said, taking my hands in hers. "Josh, I want us to take the next step in our journey together. I love you more than words can express, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Her proposal took my breath away. Overwhelmed with love and joy, I nodded, tears of happiness welling up in my eyes. "Yes, Jessica. Yes, I will marry you." We embraced the beautiful scenery around us, a fitting backdrop for such a pivotal moment in our lives. It felt like the culmination of everything we had been through, the trials, the growth, the love. We were ready to face the future together, as partners in every sense of the word. Returning to the city, we shared our engagement news with our friends and family, who were all thrilled and supportive. The coming months were filled with planning and excitement as we prepared for our wedding. It was a time of celebration, not just of our love, but of the journey that had brought us to this point. On a warm autumn day, surrounded by our loved ones, Jessica and I exchanged vows in a beautiful outdoor ceremony. The air was filled with laughter, joy, and the promise of a future built on trust, love, and mutual respect. As we looked into each other's eyes and said our I do's, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the life we were building together. The wedding marked the beginning of a new chapter. We continued to pursue our individual goals while always supporting each other. My MBA program came to a successful conclusion, opening new opportunities in my career. Jessica, too, continued to excel, her passion and dedication inspiring me every day. In the quiet moments, as we sat together in our cozy home, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The betrayal and heartbreak of the past seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by the strength and resilience that had emerged from those experiences. I had learned to embrace the unexpected, to find joy in the present, and to look forward to the future with hope and confidence. Life was not without its challenges, but I knew that with Jessica by my side, we could face anything. Our love had grown deeper and stronger, a testament to the power of healing, forgiveness, and new beginnings. As we embarked on this new phase of our journey, I felt a profound sense of peace and fulfillment. We were living proof that even the most painful experiences could lead to something beautiful and enduring. And as we looked to the future, hand in hand, I knew that our story was just beginning, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a life lived in love and harmony. After a delightful evening celebrating their wedding anniversary at a cozy restaurant nestled in the heart of the city, Jessica and I strolled back to our hotel, content and wrapped in the warm glow of shared memories. The night air was crisp, and the city lights twinkled around us, casting a romantic ambiance over the streets. As we approached the hotel entrance, a figure emerged from the shadows, a familiar face that made my heart skip a beat. It was Sarah, my former colleague, whom I hadn't seen since I left my previous job years ago. "Josh, is that you?" Sarah exclaimed, her voice tinged with surprise and excitement. I turned to see her standing there, her expression a mix of astonishment and joy. "Sarah, I can't believe it's you. How have you been?" We exchanged a warm embrace, catching up on each other's lives in the bustling city streets. Sarah had moved on to a new job in marketing, thriving in her career. She shared stories of her recent travels and adventures, her enthusiasm infectious. "This is Jessica," I introduced, gesturing to my wife. "We just celebrated our anniversary tonight." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Congratulations. I'm so happy for you both. You look amazing together." We chatted for a while longer, reminiscing about our time working together and exchanging contact information to stay in touch. Sarah was genuinely interested in our lives and eager to catch up more. "I'm so glad I ran into you tonight," Sarah said, smiling warmly. "It's been too long. Let's grab coffee sometime soon." "Absolutely," I agreed, feeling a surge of nostalgia and gratitude for the unexpected reunion. It would be great to catch up more. As Sarah bid us goodnight and disappeared into the city streets, Jessica and I continued into the hotel, our hearts full from the chance encounter. Inside our room, we reflected on the evening, marveling at how life had a way of bringing people together when least expected. "Meeting Sarah again was such a pleasant surprise," Jessica said, settling onto the bed beside me. "It's funny how life works sometimes." "It is," I agreed, wrapping my arm around her. "I'm glad she's doing well, and I'm grateful for the life we've built together." Jessica smiled, leaning into my embrace. "Me too, Josh. Here's to many more years of surprises and happiness." As we drifted off to sleep that night, I couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of gratitude for the journey that had led me to Jessica and the life we had created together. The unexpected encounter with Sarah served as a reminder of how interconnected our lives could be, weaving a tapestry of memories, friendships, and love that enriched our hearts and souls. In the quiet moments before sleep claimed us, I whispered a silent thank you to fate for guiding me to this moment, to Jessica, to love, and to the promise of a future filled with endless possibilities. Several months had passed since our encounter with Sarah, and life continued to unfold with its usual mix of challenges and blessings. Jessica and I settled into a comfortable routine, balancing our careers, personal goals, and the joys of married life. One sunny afternoon, as I sat in my home office reviewing project reports, my mind wandered to the journey that had brought me here. From the betrayal and heartbreak of my past to the healing and love that now surrounded me, I couldn't help but marvel at how far I had come. Jessica had left earlier that morning for a business trip, and the house felt unusually quiet without her presence. I took a break and wandered into our garden, a tranquil sanctuary filled with blooming flowers and the soothing sound of a nearby fountain. As I sat on a bench, enjoying the warmth of the sun on my face, my thoughts turned to the future. I had achieved so much since those dark days of betrayal, completing my MBA, advancing in my career, and building a loving partnership with Jessica. Yet there was still a part of me that felt unsettled, a lingering sense of unfinished business. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Jessica calling to check in after her morning meetings. "Hey Josh," she greeted warmly. "How's your day going?" "Quiet without you here," I admitted with a smile. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened, about how far we've come." "Me too," Jessica replied, her voice soft with affection. "I can't believe how much our lives have changed since we met." We talked for a while longer, sharing our thoughts and plans for the future. Jessica mentioned an upcoming project she was excited about, and I listened intently, grateful for her support and encouragement. After we said our goodbyes, I returned to my thoughts, and a sense of clarity began to emerge. I realized that while I had moved on from the pain of my past, there were still lessons to be learned and new paths to explore. That evening, as Jessica and I enjoyed a quiet dinner together, I broached the topic that had been weighing on my mind. "Jessica, do you remember how we talked about starting a foundation someday?" I asked tentatively. Her eyes brightened with interest. "Yes, I remember. We always talked about giving back, about making a difference in the world." "I've been thinking," I continued, gathering my thoughts. "What if we started now? What if we used our resources and experiences to create something meaningful, something that could leave a lasting impact. Jessica's face lit up with excitement. I love that idea, Josh. It's something we've always talked about, but now feels like the right time to make it happen. Over the following weeks, we devoted our evenings and weekends to planning and researching. We identified causes close to our hearts: education, community development, and environmental conservation, and reached out to experts and organizations for guidance. With Jessica's expertise in marketing and my background in finance, we assembled a team of dedicated individuals who shared our vision. Together, we laid the foundation for a nonprofit organization aimed at empowering communities and fostering sustainable change. It was a daunting yet exhilarating journey, filled with late-night meetings, brainstorming sessions, and moments of uncertainty. But with each step forward, we felt a renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment. As our foundation began to take shape, we received overwhelming support from friends, colleagues, and community members. Their enthusiasm and encouragement fueled our determination to make a positive impact, one project at a time. On a crisp autumn day, we officially launched the foundation with a small ceremony attended by our closest friends and supporters. Standing side by side, Jessica and I shared our vision for a better world and our commitment to creating opportunities for those in need. Looking out at the faces gathered before us, I felt a profound sense of gratitude and optimism. The journey that had started with heartbreak and betrayal had led me to this moment, to a life filled with love, purpose, and the chance to make a difference. As Jessica and I celebrated our accomplishments that evening, surrounded by the warmth and support of our community, I knew that our story was far from over. Together, we would continue to embrace new beginnings, overcome challenges, and build a future where compassion and empowerment thrive. And as we looked ahead to the next chapter of our lives, I felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, hand in hand, with hearts full of hope and determination. As the season shifted from autumn to winter, Jessica and I found ourselves fully immersed in the operations of our foundation. What started as a passionate idea has blossomed into a thriving organization, impacting lives and communities in meaningful ways. One snowy evening, we sat by the fireplace in our cozy living room, reflecting on the journey that had led us here. The foundation had exceeded our expectations, with several successful projects already underway. From building schools in underserved areas to launching environmental conservation initiatives, each endeavor brought us closer to our mission of creating positive change. "I can't believe how far we've come," Jessica said, her voice filled with awe. "From talking about starting a foundation to seeing it make a difference, it's incredible." I nodded in agreement, savoring the warmth of her presence and the crackling of the fire. "It's been a rewarding journey, hasn't it? And we're just getting started." Jessica smiled, her eyes shimmering with pride. "I'm so proud of what we've accomplished together, Josh. This foundation means everything to me." "Me too," I replied, reaching for her hand. "It's brought us closer to our values and each other." As the foundation grew, so did our partnership. We navigated challenges together, learning from each experience and celebrating every milestone. Our shared dedication to making a difference fueled our determination, strengthening our bond in ways I had never imagined. Amid our foundation's success, we also found joy in the quiet moments of everyday life. From spontaneous weekend getaways to cozy evenings at home, Jessica and I cherished the simple pleasures of love and companionship. One afternoon, as we walked through a snow-covered park near our home, Jessica turned to me with a mischievous sparkle in her eyes. "Josh, do you remember when we first met?" she asked, a playful smile tugging at her lips. I chuckled softly, recalling the awkward yet endearing circumstances of our initial encounter. "How could I forget? You spilled coffee on my shirt, and the rest is history." Jessica laughed, the sound like music to my ears. "It feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? But I wouldn't change a thing." "Neither would I confessed, stopping to gaze into her eyes. "Meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me." As we stood there, surrounded by the quiet beauty of winter, I realized how much our love had grown since those early days. Jessica was not just my partner in life, but my confidant, my best friend, and my greatest source of strength. In the weeks that followed, we continued to expand our foundation's reach, forging partnerships and exploring new growth opportunities. Each project brought its own set of challenges and rewards, but through it all, we remained united in our commitment to making a meaningful impact on the world. As spring approached, bringing with it a sense of renewal and possibility, Jessica and I looked ahead to the future with optimism and gratitude. Our foundation had become a beacon of hope, inspiring others to join us in our mission to create a brighter, more equitable world. As we embraced the changes and challenges that lay ahead, I knew that with Jessica by my side, there was nothing we couldn't achieve together. Our journey was far from over, and I eagerly anticipated the adventures and discoveries that awaited us in the chapters yet to come. Spring arrived with a burst of color and warmth, signaling a season of renewal and new beginnings. For Jessica and me, it marked not only the growth of our foundation, but also a personal milestone that would forever change our lives. One sunny afternoon, we found ourselves exploring a quaint neighborhood known for its vibrant gardens and charming cafes. As we wandered hand in hand down a tree-lined street, Jessica paused beside a shop window adorned with delicate bouquets. "These are beautiful," she remarked, her eyes sparkling with admiration. I smiled, knowing that the time had come to share a secret I had been keeping for months. "Jessica, there's something I've been meaning to tell you." Her gaze shifted from the flowers to me, curiosity and anticipation mingling in her expression. "What is it, Josh?" Taking a deep breath, I reached into my pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Opening it, I revealed a shimmering diamond ring nestled inside. Jessica gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in surprise. "Josh." "Jessica, from the moment I met you, my life changed in ways I never imagined possible," I began, my voice filled with emotion. "You've been my partner, my confidant, and my greatest love. I can't imagine a future without you by my side. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Jessica's eyes as she gazed at the ring, her heart overflowing with love and happiness. "Yes, Josh. Yes, 1,000 times yes." I slipped the ring onto her finger, feeling a rush of joy and relief as we embraced, the world around us fading into the background. At that moment, surrounded by the beauty of spring and the promise of a future together, everything felt perfect. As we shared the news with our families and friends, the outpouring of love and congratulations filled our hearts with warmth. Our engagement became a celebration of love, unity, and the journey we had embarked on together. In the weeks that followed, we began planning our wedding, weaving together our dreams and visions for the future. From choosing a venue that reflected our love for nature to selecting meaningful details that honored our journey, every decision brought us closer as we prepared to exchange vows and begin a new chapter of our lives. On a sunny June day, surrounded by our loved ones and the beauty of nature, Jessica and I stood beneath a canopy of flowers and pledged our love to each other. The ceremony was a reflection of who we were, a celebration of love, resilience, and the shared dreams that had brought us together. As we danced under the stars that evening, surrounded by the laughter and joy of our guests, I knew that our journey was far from over. Together, we would continue to embrace each moment, navigate life's challenges, and cherish the gift of love that had brought us together. And as we looked ahead to the future, hand in hand, I knew that with Jessica by my side, there was nothing we couldn't achieve. Our love story was just beginning, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a lifetime of happiness, laughter, and adventure. After the whirlwind of wedding celebrations and the excitement of starting our married life together, Jessica and I settled into a new rhythm, a delicate balance between work, our foundation, and nurturing our relationship. The early days of marriage brought a sense of peace and contentment as we reveled in the simple joys of sharing a home, cooking meals together, and exploring our shared interests. Yet amidst the busyness of our lives, we recognized the importance of carving out moments of quiet and reflection. One evening, after a particularly hectic day at the office, Jessica and I found ourselves sitting on the balcony of our apartment, savoring the cool evening breeze and the distant hum of the city below. "I feel like we're constantly running from one thing to the next," Jessica mused, her voice tinged with a hint of exhaustion. I nodded in understanding, reaching for her hand. "It's easy to get caught up in the busyness, isn't it? But we need to remember to take time for ourselves, too." Jessica sighed softly, her gaze drifting to the starlit sky above. "You're right, Josh. We've been so focused on our careers and the foundation that we haven't had much time for just us." We should plan a getaway, I suggested, the idea forming in my mind. Somewhere quiet, where we can relax and recharge. A smile tugged at Jessica's lips. That sounds wonderful. Let's do it. Over the following weeks, we immersed ourselves in planning a much-needed retreat, a secluded cabin nestled in the mountains, far from the hustle and bustle of city life. Surrounded by towering trees and the soothing sounds of nature, we found solace in each other's company. During our retreat, we hiked along forest trails, cooked meals together over an open fire, and spent lazy afternoons reading by the lake. With each passing day, the weight of responsibilities seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of peace and connection that strengthened our bond. One evening, as we sat by the crackling fire, Jessica leaned her head against my shoulder, her expression thoughtful. "Josh, I've been thinking," she began, her voice soft in the quiet of the cabin, "about our future and what we want to achieve together." I turned to her, curiosity piqued. "What are you thinking?" "I love what we're doing with the foundation," she continued, her eyes meeting mine. "But I also want us to prioritize our happiness and well-being. Maybe it's time we think about starting a family." Her words took me by surprise, yet they resonated deeply within me. The idea of becoming parents, of sharing our love and values with a child, filled me with a profound sense of joy and anticipation. "I think you're right, Jessica," I replied, squeezing her hand gently. "Let's start planning for our future together, whatever it may bring." As we returned from our retreat, refreshed and renewed, we embarked on a new chapter of our journey, one that balanced our commitment to our careers and our foundation with the hope and excitement of building a family. With each step forward, we embraced the possibilities that lay ahead, confident in our love and the strength of our partnership. And as we looked ahead to the future, hand in hand, I knew that whatever challenges and adventures awaited us, we would face them together, with hearts full of love and a shared determination to create a life filled with happiness, purpose, and fulfillment. Months passed in a blur of anticipation and preparation as Jessica and I eagerly awaited the arrival of our first child. Our days were filled with doctor's appointments, nursery decorations, and heartfelt conversations about parenthood. One crisp autumn morning, Jessica woke me with a gentle touch, a radiant smile lighting up her face. "Josh, I think it's time." My heart raced with excitement as we hurried to the hospital, our hands intertwined with anticipation and nervousness. The hours that followed were a whirlwind of emotions, a mix of joy, anxiety, and overwhelming love. And then, in the quiet hours of the night, our world shifted as we welcomed our daughter into the world. The moment I held her in my arms, a rush of emotions flooded through me, a profound sense of awe and responsibility, mingled with an unconditional love unlike anything I had ever known. Jessica gazed at our daughter with tears of happiness streaming down her cheeks. "She's perfect, Josh, our little miracle." In the days that followed, our home was filled with the soft cries and sweet coos of our newborn daughter. We navigated the challenges of sleepless nights and diaper changes with a sense of wonder and gratitude, marveling at the tiny life we had created together. As Jessica and I adjusted to our new roles as parents, our foundation continued to thrive under the capable hands of our dedicated team. We found moments of quiet joy amid our busy lives, snuggling with our daughter during afternoon naps, reading bedtime stories together, and watching her grow and discover the world around her. With each passing day, our bond as a family grew stronger, anchored by love, laughter, and the shared journey of parenthood. We embraced the challenges and celebrated the milestones, finding fulfillment in the simple moments of everyday life. And as we looked at our daughter sleeping peacefully in her crib, surrounded by love and warmth, I knew that our story was just beginning. Together, we would continue to cherish each moment, navigate life's twists and turns, and build a future filled with love, happiness, and endless possibilities. Parenthood had woven itself seamlessly into the fabric of our lives, transforming our home into a sanctuary of love, laughter, and endless discoveries. As Jessica and I navigated the joys and challenges of raising our daughter, we found ourselves reflecting on the profound impact parenthood had on our journey together. One evening, after putting our daughter to bed, Jessica and I sat on the porch swing, savoring a rare moment of quietude beneath the starlit sky. "She's growing so fast," Jessica murmured, her voice tinged with a mixture of pride and nostalgia. I nodded, my gaze wandering to the twinkling stars above. It feels like just yesterday we were bringing her home from the hospital. We've learned so much, Jessica reflected, her fingers intertwining with mine, about patience, love, and the strength of our partnership. I squeezed her hand gently, a rush of gratitude washing over me. She's brought so much joy into our lives, hasn't she? She has, Jessica agreed, a soft smile gracing her lips. And she's also taught us to appreciate the little moments, the quiet mornings, the bedtime stories, the laughter that fills our home. As we sat there, enveloped in the stillness of the night, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we had come, from the pain of betrayal to the bliss of parenthood, from uncertainty to a deep-rooted sense of purpose and fulfillment. Our journey has been incredible, I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper, and it's all led us here, to this beautiful life we've built together. Jessica leaned her head against my shoulder, her warmth seeping into my soul. I wouldn't change a thing, Josh. Our story is woven with resilience, love, and the unwavering belief that together we can overcome anything. In the quiet embrace of the night, surrounded by the echoes of our daughter's laughter drifting from her bedroom window, I knew with certainty that our journey as parents was just beginning. With each passing day, we would continue to embrace the challenges and celebrate the milestones, guided by the enduring love that bound us together. And as we looked ahead to the future, hand in hand, I felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that whatever life had in store for us, we would face it together, with hearts full of love, gratitude, and the unwavering belief in the power of family. I embarked on a journey to rebuild my life from scratch, focusing on my career and personal growth, while gradually letting go of the past and discovering new goals. Mornings began with refreshing runs through the park, each stride uncovering hidden corners of the city that had previously gone unnoticed. It became not just a fitness routine, but a ritual that energized me for the day ahead. Slowly but surely, I rekindled my professional ambitions, diving deeper into my work and seeking out new challenges that pushed my boundaries. I engaged in projects that once seemed out of reach, emerging as a leader in my field. Yet the most significant aspect of this process was the time I devoted to introspection and inner growth. I delved into new areas of study, exploring books on personal development, and drawing inspiration from the success stories of others. Weekends were spent traveling with my spouse, exploring different cultures and traditions, enriching our lives with new experiences and perspectives. Each day was filled with fresh opportunities and discoveries, guiding me not only to recover from challenging times, but also to find renewed purpose and joy in life. Thus began my journey towards inner peace and new heights, opening doors to a future brimming with possibilities and achievements.